The Tourist, The Martian, American Hustle, all movies that the Golden Globes deem comedies. And now we can add I Care a Lot with Rosamund Pike to the list. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my standalone spoiler-free review for I Care a Lot, now streaming on the Netflix platform. And this is up for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes for Rosamund Pike. I sort of mentioned those other movies that are maybe questionable for comedy, but comedy certainly comes in various forms. And I think actually, of all of those ones I mentioned, other than maybe The Martian, this one probably is the funniest, but in a very, very dark sense. This is a black comedy, to say the least. So if you are new to the channel, welcome to Dan Reviews It. Please consider hitting that subscribe button below and maybe even the little bell so you can get all of my notifications. We do movie reviews here, TV reviews, food even, and many other things, Disney films. So we would love to have you aboard the channel. But let's talk about this movie, I Care a Lot. So, Rosamund Pike stars as Marla Grayson, and she is basically a court-appointed guardian for dozens of elderly wards. However, she's not really on the level. She basically, seizes their assets and bilks them of all of their money through legal means, but very, very nefarious and certainly morally questionable minimum. And we sort of see that right from the start as one of the family members of one of her wards, comes at her, both verbally and in court, and ends up losing. And she gets embroiled with this new mark, let's say, played by Diane Wiest, called Jennifer Peterson. I love Diane Wiest, I'll say that up front. But basically, she is a very wealthy retiree with seemingly no heirs or family. However, Jennifer has some secrets of her own, and we are now ensconced in this fight between Rosamund Pike's character Marla and the mob, perhaps. I don't want to give too much away, but Peter Dinklage plays the head of the people who are sort of trying to free Jennifer for a variety of reasons. His name is Roman in the film. This is one of these movies where you can't say a ton without giving spoilers away. So that's really all I'll talk about plot-wise. So let's get into the specifics of this film. First of all, is this a comedy? Yes, in terms of a dark comedy, because everybody here is so over the top, villainous, that it is sort of played a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I think. And I think it was meant to be. So in terms of that, I think the Golden Globes actually are on sort of the right path in this. However, this is definitely an intense movie. Look, preying on the elderly is one of just the, most sickest things a person could do. It's just awful. These poor elderly people that either, don't know who they're playing into, or, can fend for themselves but get duped into other things. This is an actual problem that really does happen, where these wards of the state come in and basically take legal guardianship, and it's all legal, but it can get very, very thorny for the people. And that does happen. So, that's very interesting that they're, building a movie around that plot and sort of shedding a light on this real thing that does happen that is horrible and not at all funny. But the way this is written, the way this is acted, the way this is, shot, it's just, it does come across very dramatic at times, but in other spots, it is certainly, I think, a dark comedy. So, not that it matters for the grade, really, but just, as a disclaimer that, okay, sometimes the Golden Globe puts some questionable things in there. I think this is one that you could say, like, I don't know if this is really a comedy, but I think it is played so over the top in some of these instances that you could certainly call it that. Rosamund Pike is excellent in this. I love that she was nominated for a Golden Globe for this. I don't think it will net her another Oscar nomination. I believe the one she already has is for Gone Girl. How could it not be, right? She was so excellent in that movie. And this is not necessarily a dissimilar character to the one she played in Gone Girl, in the terms that she just basically has no moral code and doesn't care about anybody, and really barely cares about herself. There's a few scenes where her life is certainly on the line, and she's like, well, whatever. I'm confident in my life decisions, so if it's my time, it's my time, and that kind of thing. I think that is very extreme, but it pulls into question a few other things I think that we can kind of take from this movie, which is to say that if she doesn't really even care about her character, how invested can we be in the character? And that's sort of a running thread throughout this movie, because we see a lot of people that are just sort of they're doing their damnedest to get the result they want, but they're just so reckless about it and even in their own lives that it's like, all right, none of you guys care about yourselves. I'm not sure why I should be so invested here. So I've seen now 4 of the 5 performances that are up for Best Actress in a comedy or musical. Anya Taylor-Joy and Emma, Michelle Pfeiffer in French Exit, that's not out yet, or maybe it is, but just in theater, so I haven't gotten to see that yet. Kate Hudson in music, and Maria Bakalova in Borat. Of those 5, I think this is possibly the best performance of them. Anya Taylor-Joy gives a great performance in Emma, but I sort of think she'll win in the TV categories for Queen's Gambit, so she's all right. And Maria Bakalova was definitely very funny in Borat. In terms of the funniest performance, yeah, it's hers. But Rosamund Pike does that same sort of thing that she did in Gone Girl. And I'm not saying that as a slight. I'm saying that as a positive for how just cold and dastardly a character can be coming from her mind. And Diane Weiss is also very good here. But another great part of this movie, staying with the acting, is Peter Dinklage. He's just great. And look, I'm not a Game of Thrones watcher, but I've seen him in many movies, and we know he can be like a menacing character. He may be short in stature, but tall, very, very, very many other ways. And he's great here as well. And what is nice about this is the whole sort of weaved puzzle, because we don't know a lot about many of these characters for much of the movie. And we do see some other people here you might recognize. Chris Messina from the old Mindy Project. He plays Jennifer's lawyer. And the judge, this idiot that keeps just not seeing what's really in front of his face here, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., just he is like, oh, you just want to wring his neck, when Rosamund Pike is in there with her smile that could, melt ice here. But look, the main problems with this movie, though, are in the story. I've already said that you kind of don't care about anybody because they don't care about themselves. So it's almost like, all right, well, then who cares at all? Ironic, the movie's called I Care a Lot when nobody does seem to care. But I think the different webs that are being woven, I think it gets a little too convoluted, a little bit too big for its own britches. And the ending, which I kind of liked, will certainly be divisive by many. And this is not a feel-good movie, It certainly makes you feel bad for the elderly being preyed upon, like I said. But this is one of those movies that has a very, very different critic rating and audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I always like to look at the Rotten just to see what the mindset of the populace is, and if where I stand in line with here. And the critics have this at 81%, very high. Not amazing, but pretty good. Audience score, 35%. So, this is going to be a movie that I think people may not like just because of the subject matter, because everybody's so evil that you can't really get behind anybody. I think that could be a problem for many. And I think that ending is going to be very, very divisive. I'm certainly somewhere in the middle. An 81, I think, might be a little high for this movie, but I would contribute to that because I am on the positive end, and that's kind of how Rotten works. But you know, this is an interesting but tough film. I've certainly watched tougher in the last week. Pieces of a Woman, for example, on Netflix. Very, very hard to watch. This is a movie where you have to either sort of get behind completely or you're just not going to enjoy it. You got to get behind these characters, as awful as they are, and not necessarily root for somebody, but just sort of throw yourself into the story and be engaged with it. But the performances are very, very good. I would not be surprised at all if Pike does win the Best Actress trophy at the Golden Globes in a few days. I'm going to leave I Care a Lot with a B minus. Certainly some problems, but I think there's some strong performances here. And boy, taking advantage of the elderly, oh, it just drives me crazy. So, you kind of want people to get their comeuppance, but that doesn't always happen in life, does it? So, very, very interesting. And that is the review for I Care a Lot. Join me the next few days. I'm gonna try and tackle all of the other Golden Globe nominees that I have not seen yet. I just finished watching Mank on Netflix, so I've got a whole slew of Netflix options to talk about. There's a couple I don't think I'll be able to get to just because they're theatrically only. But I'm going to get to as many as I can before Sunday's Golden Globes. And that's going to do it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back here next time.